How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting. Welcome back to Muv-Luv Monday, where we are here and the politics is flying. Last episode was pretty indicative of the fact that, whatever the celebration and happiness we had from Yuuya not only going to his first actual combat, but being able to utilize the railgun very effectively, and the hope it inspires in the battlefield, it's not quite as simple as just, hunky-dory, everyone goes home feeling happy and rosy. Already we're seeing all political parties are starting to make moves. The Japanese are frustrated because of the string pulls that were made to take this highly classified technology out of Japan for a field test. The Russians were hoping to disrupt such field tests, but then because of a breakdown of leadership, that didn't happen, so they're likely concerned, but they also might be seeing this as a potential opportunity to still get access to the railgun itself because it's here in their territory. There's also implications that the United States might be willing to work with Russia to subvert the technological advantage and, I guess IP rights, you could almost say, for the Japanese government. And so that's starting to form more of a rift between Japan and exterior nations, despite the fact that they're supposed to be allies. The UN kind of facilitates all of it, so they're kind of just stuck in the middle of everything. They're kind of the middle manager for everything, which, that's kind of what the UN does. But in this case, being a paramilitary organization, they have clout and resources to really move around. So they're much more influential in this version of the world and version of history. So yeah, lots of dicey stuff going on there. And then you also being challenged with the fact that look, what are you fighting for? Do you actually know what it's like here, and do you have what it takes to stand up for the actual war, or are you content to sit in the back and do your testing? Which is funny because he's got a good point that testing is a dangerous job, needs to be done. You need skilled pilots for it, but he still can't even say they're at fault for not being super accepting of him and his role, because compared to them, he's got a pretty nice lifestyle. So we're going to see what happens this episode. Not really much else to go over, so let's just jump right into it. All right, Lieutenant Takamura, please look at this.
無様だ。心のどこかに弱さと隙がある。今さら一月も前のことを反芻するとは。
You talking about the island?
はい。何かおっしゃいましたか？
いや、なんでもない。それにしても、一社ごとのフルオーバーホールとは、覚悟はしていたが、大仕事だな。
Okay.
ええ、消耗品も相当なもんです。威力はすごいですが、今んとこ見合ってないってのが正直なところですかね。
So, the wear and tear is intense. That makes sense. Perhaps it needs to be better designed, in the long term. But I would argue that considering, what it was able to do, even if you only could deploy it, once every month, I still think that's very advantageous. You pick your battles, especially when you're attacking an actual hive, even if you could just deploy, 3 of these suckers, you can get to those hive channels. You can get inside them.
実戦での運用は、未だ遠く険しいか。
あとは、場所もね。本土とはやっぱり勝手が違うんで、少し多めに時間を見積もらないといけません。
Right.
そうか。ここにいるのは整備の中核となる、ごく一部の人員。やりづらかろう。となると、本土での開発は、事実上、中断しているのだろうな。
ええ。一部といっても、技術屋はほとんどこっちにいますから、仕方ありません。
すまない。いろいろと面倒をかけているな。
いいえ、実戦の使者なんてそうできることじゃないんで、非常にありがたいですよ。と、ちょっと失礼します。
十分な見返り、か。実戦での死者程度では動かないだろうな。政治的辛抱の引き金にもなる。
At least someone's aware. I was gonna say, one of the big problems I've also seen with the intrigue that's been going on is the fact that it felt like Yuuya, Yui, and everyone else just did not really see what's really going on behind the scenes, but it looks like Yui has a decent idea.
これが、一 人の上に立つということなのですか？すべては私の意志。そして、私の責任。父様、ユイは、これで良かったのでしょうか？
I understand, like, being unsure in yourself. I mean, these are very large, titanic decisions that you're involved in. She's really young. She's got, like, a limited amount of experience to draw from. Great experience. She's fantastically proven her skill and talent and capabilities, but at the same time, this is a whole different ball game, and it's one that she's not accustomed to. But I think that she really does doubt herself too much. She's got a lot more going for her than she even like seems to understand. But again, part of what makes her so good at her job is the fact that she doesn't let it get to her head. She has a lot of clout. She has a lot of of authority and ability and capability. And yet the fact that she can remain humble, like genuinely humble, not just like putting on airs of humility, which is a common, essentially political move people can do, is they try and speak as if they're humble, but they really don't see themselves that way. Where she genuinely sees herself as lacking. She genuinely is searching to be better. But at times that can undermine the decisiveness that's necessary for someone in her position. Hey.
お疲れ様でした。顔色が優れませんね。
Political fallout time.
旗色は良くないな。大友め、よく調べている。大きなくさびを打たれたよ。
Did his homework, maybe, but at the same time, it wasn't like it was that hard of homework to do. You took a very highly technological advancement that's exclusive to Japan out of Japan. That's always going to cause issues. I even remember saying last episode, like, Otomo was being kind of an a-hole, but he had some really solid, genuine points to make. Sure, it doesn't align with like the heroics of the characters that we're following, but like he had some decent insights. Like you can't just dismiss them because he was right on the money in a lot of things. Like, and I think that's another good example of good writing, especially with the political intrigue, is it's not like there's just a clear-cut good guy, bad guy. You can understand the point of view of everybody who's putting up an interest and putting out an opinion because they're very logical, they're very realistic, and they're very much about scope and implementation and priorities. So Otomo might have been prioritizing Japan, but you can make an argument that it's cool to be altruistic, sure, but at the same time, if you are being truly altruistic in this world, most everyone else isn't. They're going to be driven by self-interest, so they'll take advantage of your altruism and, you know, take everything you'll give them for free or for cheap, and then offer you nothing in return. And that is an unhealthy relationship. I would even argue it's parasocial in a way. It reminds me a lot of what I've learned about friendship growing up. When going through high school, I ended up being very eccentric to a lot of like social interactions. I would plan activities and like get-togethers and kind of merge groups together. And I sure it was cool to be able to like help people forge new friendships and get new groups together and like help other people learn and enjoy other hobbies they'd never considered or do before. Like it's fun being able to kind of be a part of all that, sure, but I was doing so under the motivation of trying to just make everybody happy and to make sure nobody didn't like me because I was always paranoid that people were going to dislike me. And, you know, it's kind of paradoxical because the thing is people aren't going to like you. Like it's just an inevitability. And, I feel like there's a saying I'm gonna butcher, but it was saying the things like, if you have no enemies, it means you've never been you've never been driven enough to pursue your own interests. Because if you actually pursue something that you like, it's going to breed hostility in some way, out of jealousy, out of just dislike of what you say or what you represent. Like if you take a position, you're going to have adversity and you're going to have haters essentially. And so my vain attempt to try and make sure everyone liked me and nobody hated me or disliked me essentially was just me constantly giving energy, constantly giving effort, constantly giving of myself to others and never receiving that same reciprocation in return, except for some very few exceptions, some very true friends and like, you know, romantic relationships that were genuine. Other than that, it was like always give, and never like receive. And so I walked away from that learning, oh, I put so much effort and so much energy into these relationships and got literally like a handful of actual meaningful ones. And the really funny part is of all the relationships I've been putting energy into, the ones that were giving back to me, the ones that were supporting me and being genuinely friends with me, were the ones that were my friends before I was so obsessed with trying to make everyone happy. They were the friends who were there already. I didn't need any more, and they weren't demanding anything from me in any way. I'm sure they appreciated like me putting in the effort to get stuff together, but like it's just one of those things again. So like you can take that model and it can apply a lot to politics and nations, except there's more layers of intrigue there. There's lots of heavier motivations for keeping secrets and putting yourself in front of others, and like beyond the individual basis, especially when you're supposedly representing other people, that pressure and that motivation is going to be even more intensely pronounced. And that's kind of why we see political schisms and political polarizing that's happening. As greater communication in the information age is, it has started to push everyone to extremes because it starts becoming tribalism. And it's kind of an inevitability, I feel, with people. It takes a lot of effort to be able to overcome those biases and the desire to feel like you're right and justified in what you do and believe, and that anyone who disagrees with you is justifiably worth like disparaging, ignoring, and potentially hating, because that helps us feel comfortable inside. It's not comfortable to listen to somebody whom you genuinely disagree with on so many levels saying something that you actually agree with. I think a good example of that is I think I've mentioned before, like I'm not a big fan of Trump. It's not even about his political leanings. It's about him as an individual, the way he carries himself, the way he handles information, the way he makes decisions that are very overtly and covertly self-benefiting at the cost of others, at the expense of others. It's a very common trait in lots of businessmen. It's something I've seen more and more in the echelons of successful, which is kind of sucky because it's like, I don't think I could ever be that successful because I don't think I could be that cruel and like self-aggrandizing to actually pull it off. But he did have an interesting thing. When he was in a debate, when he was running in 2016, he was being called out about some of the tax evasions and tax tricks that he'd used in order to evade paying his fair share of taxes according to the tax law. And he was kind of being called out by Hillary Clinton, who was like on the debating stage, and he didn't say, no, that's not true. He said, yeah, it's exactly what I did. And that was crazy. And she's like, so you admit that you're dodging taxes? He says, no, I'm taking advantage of the tax code that you and your rich friends also take advantage of. And the thing is, like, I disagree with Trump on a lot, but he had a point there. And that's a good example of how, like, you can still hear truth and hear real things and proper things that you can genuinely stand next to from people whom you completely disagree with on almost a fundamental level. Because that's what it takes to be able to make compromises. That's what it takes to keep yourself an open mind. It's the ability to recognize truth no matter where it comes from. And to also recognize that, like, just because you mostly disagree with somebody doesn't mean that there isn't practical reasons to be able to give them an ear, to let them to actually give consideration to their points of view, and to remember that they're human. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Trump, but I hate when I see people turning him into like a devil or using him as a villain or some kind of megalomaniac. Like, he's not from a comic book. He's not, and even then, comic book villains tend to be decently complex, like if you actually look into the lore. But people tried to just make it like, oh, this person good, this person bad. And this is not how the world is.
無理がたたって付け入る隙を与えてしまったようですね。やはり時期尚早だったのでは。
Yeah.
やむを得まい。講師データを得る機会は今を置いて他になかったかもしれんのだ。
Really? Okay, that's confusing to me. Why wouldn't they want to test it? Were people just too terrified of people learning, like, where the technology comes from? The fact that Japan has this technology, like, were they so scared of that they didn't want to, like, they wanted to just completely cover it? But that's the kind of thing, is like, where, like, what good is a bar of gold if you just bury it in your backyard so nobody else can get it? Like, is it really benefiting you or giving you value if that's what you do with it?
知らぬい新潟は、このまま帝国に戻ってきても、難癖をつけられ、日の目を見ることはないかもしれん。それを防ぐには、国外で様々な実績を積み重ねていくより他にない。
Now, Iwaya, I agree. I can see your point of view, but I actually don't know if I agree with that.
手続きに落ちてはないのだ。難癖の息を出てはおらんよ。俺は堂々とするだけさ。
申し訳ありません。出過ぎた真似をしました。
Interesting. Alright, forward, you can.
先日、極東ソビエト戦線に派遣していた実験部隊の一つが、現地での特殊兵器の試射試験に成功。多大な戦果を上げたとのことです。
ああ。XFJ 計画絡みで日本帝国から持ち込まれたレールガンのことか。
はい。なお、極東ソビエト軍司令部は国連軍派遣部隊に対し、感謝状の贈呈と該当部隊への報奨の授与を行ったとの声明を発表しています。
ほう。
ソ連側も随分奮発しましたね。英雄近世勲章といえば、ロシア人でさえたやすく手に入らぬ代物でしょうに。
Yeah, it is interesting that they would give such praise and like reveries to outsiders.
何？彼らにとって勲章の類はただの小道具に過ぎんよ。早役が主役より目立つという想定外の舞台となってしまったんだ。演出家としてはうまく脚本に組み入れて、スポンサーへの対応をしなければならないのだろう。
I think that's a great position for that. Actually, this idea of like, was an upstarge. It makes sense to twist it and try and make it look intentional.
イーダル小隊のスコアは傑出していると言って差し支えないでしょうが、3000キロオーバーという数字の前では、さすがに霞みますしね。
Well, what's the 3,000 kills reference?
私としては、そのようなバツナギめいた見せ物より、停滞している本筋の進捗を見せていただきたいのですがね。
Alright, Mr. Case Officer standing in for all like the core Muv-Luv stands, saying like, why are we reading about this when we should be reading more about Takaru?
構わんよ。実現される理論の方が、机上のそれよりもよほどありがたい。何しろ、実際に多くの人間が生還しているのだからな。それだけでも、彼らを派遣した価値はあったというものだ。
そうですね。
ところでこの素晴らしい報告に、基地司令は何と？
特に何も。司令は正確で迅速な独自の情報ルートをお持ちのようですから。
なるほど。あの男らしい。だが仮に初耳だったとしても、全く興味は示さないだろうがな。
はい。司令のお立場からすればそれも理解できます。あの方は、プロミネンス計画につけられた鈴ですから。
Interesting.
まあ、ある意味気の毒ではあるな。本人は今の立場など望んでないだろうに。本国の人事には逆らえないか。
He's talking about the commander. And Project Prominence. I miss remembering. Okay, me and him. Okay. The commander seems to have his own quick and accurate channels of information. Is he talking about the commander of our test flight group? Like that's Project Prominence. So he was like, oh gosh, I thought, I can't remember if he was Indian or Turkish. I think he was Turkish. I think I'm misappropriating a different person who was Indian. So why would his own government be at cross purpose with what's happening here?
その不満のせいでしょうか。報告に上がった私に、未だ非公式な情報を教えてくださいました。ディスインフォメーションの可能性は否定できませんが、おそらく本当でしょ
う。Okay.
ほう。私は聞かせてもらえるんだろうな。
以前に話題に上った例のアメリカ軍部隊ですが、派遣時期の繰り上げをするそうです。ただ、予定とは別部隊の派遣が決定したようです。詳細までは伺えませんでしたが、それなりの部隊とのことでした。
Okay, so the Americans are mobilizing something different.
なるほど。 こちらの打った手に合わせ、手札を変えてきたというわけか。
I hate how the UN and the US are not like they're some of like they're so intrinsically tied, and at the same time they are also at each other's throats. Everybody's at each other's throats.
おそらく、アメリカにとってソ連への早期部隊派遣はやはり計算外だったようです。
それは楽しみだ。さぞ盛況な部隊を送り込んでくるのだろうな。
万事整地を尽くしてことに臨むつもりなのでしょう。高顔無知はかの国の美徳ですから。
だがそれでいい。アメリカ最新鋭機のデータが実測できるだけでも、我々には願ってもないことだ。
So I wonder if it's going to be the test flight group that Yuuya used to be a part of that are now going to be bringing up the new American TSF that he was helping test before, because they want to try and like show that they're not falling behind the Shiranui second. But that means that Yuuya is going to be competing against the test flights and members that he used to like work with, but also used to pick on him. That could be really interesting.
ですな。早速情報の裏を取ります。退出の許可をいただけますか？
ああ、ご苦労。
あの方はいかにも官僚タイプという感じですね。言葉に隙がなく、いちいち理屈っぽいです。あの若さで今の地位にあるのですから、とても有能なのはわかりますが。
やれやれ。あの男は君より年も階級も上だぞ。ところで君はどう思う？今回の第二次派遣については。
成功と評して良いと考えます。その理由として大きく4点。想定通り、ソ連軍試験部隊が水準以上のスコアを上げていること。日本帝国の新兵器搬入や実射試験といった予定外のテストが成果を収めていること。
Okay.
第一次派遣のアフリカ連合のように脱落する部隊が発生していないことが挙げられます。
なるほど。
加えて、先ほど閣下がおっしゃったように、急遽派遣を決定したことにより、アメリカが次の手を打たざるを得ない状況を現出させた。これがなった時点で、今回の派遣は成功したと言っても過言ではないと考えます。
Right. So by being able to get information from the Americans, who again are major players in the worldscape of everything, especially in this universe, but you know, interesting.
大佐の主導するプロミネンス計画への協力は一部の民間企業のみ。もったいぶったアメリカを動かすにはちょうどいい刺激になったというところですね。
I wonder who this second lieutenant Rint is. She's got like a name. She's talking a lot. I wonder if we're going to see more of her, or is she a reference to other material that I just for some reason am not familiar with? Or heck, probably more likely, I've seen her before because she sounds and looks somewhat familiar, but there's so many characters I probably lost track. And you guys are all going to scream at me in the comments saying like, "You idiot! Don't you know she's from this?" And I'll be like, "Oh darn it, of course."
技術流出を警戒してケチくさく振る舞った結果、ソ連による戦術機売り込みを指を加えて見守るしかなかった。アメリカ国防省が軍需産業からの突き上げを食らうのは当然でしょう。それに、西側の名手としては、配下の国々に誰が主人か知らしめる必要がありますからね。
Yep. Unfortunately, when you're on the top, you have to work really hard to keep yourself there, which is kind of ironic because it feels like if you're on the top, you should just be on the top, right? But no, you got to keep that pressure.
大佐のソ連への優遇策は成功したと思います。あとは、のこのこと遅れて出てきたアメリカをどうコントロールするのかということになると思うのですが。
UN leaders, you sly dogs, you're literally playing everyone against each other. Freaking Game of Thrones up in here.
大佐のことですから、すでに何か手配されているのではないでしょうか。
そこまで用意周到な太刀に見えるかね？
見えますわ。少なくとも、これまでにお使いした上官の誰よりも。
ありがとう。君にそう言ってもらえると自信が持てるよ。粗骨者という自覚はあるが、老骨に鞭を打って働くこととしよう。
まあ、ご冗談を。大佐にはまだまだ頑張っていただきませんと。
すまないが、もう一杯コーヒーをもらえるかな？
もちろんです、閣下。
ソ連も必死だな。
Well, that's very true. They are desperate.
多少の関係悪化は織り込み済みか。こうなるとスラブ人は手強い。だが、この程度で潰れるのであれば、 到底役に立たんのも事実だ。犠牲の上にしか成り立たぬのが現実なのだ。
That's a realist point of view. 13th day in whatever it's called. So I'm guessing we're almost about ready to go, right? Why is everyone looking so upset, though? Baofeng, Idol, and Argus. Except for the mechanics, all members of these three teams were supposed to attend, but wonder of wonders, the Idol branch are nowhere to be seen. Hope Kriska and Inya are doing okay. Nah, I'm sure they're doing just fine and dandy. My cheating aside, they racked up the highest kill score. What is wrong with me? I expected them to be reeling for what happened at the Kamchatka base, but my fears were unfounded. Their numbers speak for themselves.
それにしても遅えな。非常講習だって言っといて、もう10分以上も放置されてるぜ。
Yeah.
頭いいで
Did you go on a bender last night? Just how much did you drink, dude?
仕方ないだろ。暇だったんだから。
I will never understand. I've tasted alcohol, it doesn't taste good, but why would you want to do that to yourself? I mean, I understand you might have fun, but if you're having that much fun and it hurts that much after, it just feels like you could still have fun without that. Go on a roller coaster. Nothing I can say to that. Next time try to pace yourself a little, though.
そうは言ってもね。先君報奨で36時間の基地内待機。ありがたいけどここじゃ何もすることはないし。
Fair.
そういうお前は、どこで何してたんだ同志ユーヤスキー。初陣から。
Not really. Just been wandering around the base, looking for spots where I can be alone with my thoughts.
おーい、英雄殿。露骨に嫌な面するなって。
Well then, what do you think I've been up to, VG? Again with the hero crap. Just happened to have a railgun, pulled the trigger, end of story. Lieutenant Takamura told me that I'm the one anyone could have done it, but I wasn't born yesterday. Effing transparent, she was buttering me up. And besides, everyone's got some of them shiny commie medals, so you're officially a hero too, Comrade Makronsky.
いいじゃねえの。連中も嬉しいんだよ。あんだけ派手にタコスケどもがぶっ飛ばされんの見りゃ、誰だってご機嫌になるって。
Fair. That's fair. Look, I get what you're trying to say, but that's all on the Type 99. Give the Railgun a medal, not me. I'm sick and tired of having to explain myself. Sick and tired of being reminded I don't do crap. Wish they would move on already.
聞いたか、おい。英雄殿はご謙遜も甚だしいぜ。
はしゃぐな、BG。頭に響くだろ。
あ？はしゃぐな？お前に言われたかねえな。
うるさい！
聞けよ、ゆうや。こいつ一昨日の晩、まるでてめえのことみたいに喜んでバカ飲みしやがってよ。
私は別に。
That's the best though. Teresa with a hangover. She's her own worst enemy.
基地の連中を前にして、砲撃の瞬間からベータどもをぶっ飛ばすまでの話、大興奮で無限ループだったんだぜ。
うるさいな。英雄の話聞かせろって何度もせがまれたんだよ。
Explains why the mechanics who should have seen the railgun in action happen to know everything down to the very last detail, and they can't shut up about it. Hey, Tiny, I need a favor. She actually responded to Tiny and didn't get mad at us. Tonight I want you to go and tell the Soviets the real heroes are stuck working in the Argus hangar, so they can feel free to bring the party over there.
やだよ、めんどくさい。
Come on, do me a solid.
まあまあ、細けいことはどうでもいいじゃねえか。
Dreams? What are you talking about, man? Talking about morale. Morale is important. Stella leans in.
夢っていうのは、ちょっとロマンチックすぎる言い方だと思うけど、こんな味気ない基地に押し込められて、毎日毎日出口の見えない戦いを繰り返しているんだから、たまに大はしゃぎしたっていいじゃない？
That's also fair. I mean, when you put it like that, but I...
でも軍隊って、はしゃぐにも口実が必要でしょ？
An excuse, huh? Yeah, that describes it pretty well. Guess I should listen to Stella if she's arguing in favor of the friggin' Soviet military. Then again, this isn't about the nationality. On the front lines, everybody bleeds just the same.
ソ連のお偉方も、その辺は十分分かった上での計らいだろ。実際あんだけの成果を見せたんだ。胸張りさ。私も同じだよ。
Yeah, we noticed. You do.
私も夢、見せてもらってる。あれが実戦配備されたら、生まれ育った国を取り返せるんじゃないかなってさ。
That's true. I do think there's a problem though. Hear me out here. It's the same problem I see that when the news gets hold of a brand new, just started like official testing medical achievement. Like it feels like every month or so I hear about like, oh, this drug cures cancer in these rats, or oh, this drug proves that it starts the pancreas producing insulin for those with diabetes. Like it's like it feels like every month we hear that, but how often do we actually see that breakthrough happen? It takes time, and sometimes it doesn't work, or we can't ever get through human trials because it's too dangerous. Like what they don't understand, and what the problem with showcasing the railgun now is that it has flaws, it has issues, and it has limitations. Stuff that they're not talking about. But now everyone's seen what happens. For a while, it'll ride the high of people being excited, but then people are going to be fighting on the battlefield and wondering, where's the railgun? Why am I dying when we have a gun that can just make everything melt? Like, it's gonna be hard for the layman who's getting hope now to continue riding that high and not get upset when this railgun isn't around to save them in a couple months.
だから嬉しくてさ、つい大はしゃぎして飲みすぎ、あら、
ま、お偉方の意向はどうであれ。ここの連中、あれ以来随分態度が変わったぜ。
Have they? Felt like they were still being pretty nasty to us. Yeah, impossible to miss.
お前がそれをどう思うが、俺は構わねえけどよ。他人から見りゃ、結果が全てだし、実際それでいいんじゃねえか？
Yeah, these guys are taking are talking long view, unlike me, because I don't have enough actual combat experience.
まあ確かにそうでしょうね、BG。あなたにとっては、それは有意義な基地内待機だったわよね。
Oh, I see. This man, I really hope he's being smart. Otherwise, VG is going to soon be like, change the STG, because that's, or VD. Yeah, instead of VG, it's VD. That's the see, there's the clever joke. I got to it eventually.
ジョ君の英雄だもの。何もしなくても獲物が寄ってくるなんて、願ったり叶ったりよね。
おいおい、人聞き悪いな。草の根外交。いや、国際親善と言ってほしいね。
気をつけ！
I don't see Lieutenant Takamura anywhere. We're gonna start without her.
諸君、待たせてすまなかった。楽にしてくれたま。
And Idol Squad still isn't here either.
急な話だが、数日中に実戦試験を再び実施する可能性が高まったことを伝える。
Ah, this'll be interesting.
20分ほど前、極東ソ連軍司令部より、ベータ上陸の兆候が認められる旨の通達があった。
So what's gonna change this time? Oh my gosh.
8日前にオホーツク海に侵入し、先の上陸の引き金となった慶軍は、通常の3割増しの勢いで拡散し続けており、その影響による二次上陸の可能性が非常に高くなっている、とのことだ。
Now, I'm not crazy in observing that that looks like a much bigger flow than last time.
これは先日上陸したベータ軍に属する残存個体の海底分布予測図だ。今回警戒対象となるベータ軍に、このような変則パターンが観測された際には、その後、高い確率で再上陸が発生するという統計データが存在する。そのため、今回ソ連軍は、厳重警戒態勢で臨んでおり、沿岸部には早々に防衛線が敷かれ、前回露呈した直接攻撃力の不足もすでに補充によって解消されている。
So what happened last time won't happen this time.
また上陸するベータ軍各々の規模は最大でも旅団程度と推定される。したがってソ連軍は随時、通常の水際作戦にて対処、これを相当、
殲滅する算段だ。
Okay, okay. So, despite the diagram that I'm seeing, he's saying this is essentially a typical landing. So, okay.
各試験小隊は、護衛部隊と共に第二防衛線に展開し、戦況の許す限り試験を行う。試験任務の詳細及び配置は、直前の観測データによる上陸予測に応じて決定され、各小隊別の出撃前ブリーフィングにて伝達される。
Now, here's the question. Remember how they said that the railgun needed a lot of fine-tuning work, and they didn't have the manpower or proximity to Japan, aka Yokohama, to properly maintenance the gun. So is it not going to be ready? Are they maneuvering for a test of the same test cruise, but this time without the railgun cheat code? Because that could be interesting. That's exactly what Yuuya wants, but I don't know if he understands what he actually wants, because what he's asking for is insane. But he might be able to get it here.
なお、本日と明日に設定されていたオーバーホールは工程を短縮。それに伴うテストパイロットのオフはキャンセルとする。全試験部隊は10時間以内に出撃態勢を整え、準戦闘態勢で待機。
Frustrating, but
以上
understandable.
だ。
Yes.
質問はないようだな。では解散。
Lieutenant Dogulu, can I have a word with you?
なんだブリッジス。勲章でも見せびらかしに来たか。
Okay, calm down with the hostility. Actually, I've been wondering, why isn't Lieutenant Takamura present at the briefing?
注意はハンガーで機体と救急型砲に張り付いているが、それがどうかしたか。
Nothing. Just wanted to run something by her. Guess I'll drop by. Thank you for your time.
待て。今言ってもおそらく注意には会えんぞ。
What do you mean?
オーバーホールの検査工程が繰り上がった話は聞いていなかったのか。現状の最優先事項だ。貴様の要件がそれ以上に重要なら、話すことができるだろうが。
Unlikely. Got it.
なんだ。急ぎのようか。何か伝えることがあるなら聞くが。
Yes. You see... Crap, what do I do now? It's too late to act like nothing, but I can't just go and ask a superior officer. They'd be cool with me with putting up with my whims. Wait, Lieutenant Takamura is a superior officer too, but it's not the same.
まったく。らしくないな。はっきり言ったらどうだ。
Is he gonna be asking to be deployed without the railgun? Huh?
近接戦試験の繰り上げを進言したそうだな。聞きたいのはそのことじゃないのか。
Yes, that's right. The commander knows. Well, figures the lieutenant would consult with him. She's a stickler for formalities, and I won't deny it's been frustrating at times, but in this case, I'm grateful. The one thing is she's considered my suggestion by herself, but if the commander's on board as well, chances are looking pretty good. I believe we should make use of the opportunity. The situation provides a perfect chance for us to carry out close-quarters combat tests. As long as the Soviet predictions don't miss the mark by too much, there should be way less enemies than last time. Deploying the railgun would be overkill. We've already measured the Type 99 railgun's effectiveness against a large herd, and there's a little point in putting it to the test against a small group of beta. Close-quarters combat, though? That's another story entirely.
重ねての進言に感謝する。だが俺が知る限り、試験内容やスケジュールに変更はない。
Okay.
すべて予定。
Keep it together. Don't be upset. Remember how late the briefing started? Good chance there's been a sudden change on the ground, leaving no time to even consider modifying the schedule. Under these circumstances, I shouldn't be surprised the commander's not the biggest fan of my idea, so let's not act up. It would be about the most counterproductive thing I could do. Look at that! He's got some growth! Very well. So I take it my suggestion's still under consideration?
いいや。これは最終決定だが。
Alright.
ああ、ゆうやのやつ、肩落として行っちゃったよ。
あの様子じゃ、試験項目の繰り上げはなかったんでしょうね。
ま、気持ちはわからんでもねえけどな。けど、ヴィンセントの話は本当だったんだな。
It's interesting.
持ってたわけじゃなかったんだ。
They're all very concerned about Yuuya. I kind of get it too, but like, they're very concerned.
高村とのやりとりがあいつの言う通りなら、ゆうやはかわいそうだよ。みんなしてビビりすぎだっての。あいつはやれるよ。この間だって落ち着いてたじゃないか。
そうかもしれないけど、焦りすぎよ。確かに、 優也が死の8分を乗り越えたことは評価するわ。でも今は、実戦を経験できただけでも良しとすべきよ。
けど、94セカンドは格闘戦メインの機体じゃないか。こんなとこまで優也を連れてきておいて、近接戦テストしないなんて、高村も何考えてんだろうね。わけわからないよ。
Well, there's a lot of layers to it. I don't think she was super eager to do this, right? Like it's interesting because like her actions might be perceived as eagerness, but I think they were more out of desperation. I think the plan went forward, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go over and do a field test," and she's like, "Are you kidding? Why? That's crazy." They're like, "Well, we need to do this," and she's like, "Okay, well, if we're gonna do this, I want to give my pilots the best chance they've got," so she gets the railgun here. But on the outside, if you don't understand like that machination of her thought process, it might just look like she was just super eager.
そうかしら。優也はまだ初陣を経験しただけだし、現実的に考えれば段階を踏むのは当然だと思うわ。計画の成功を第一に考えるなら、兵士も機体も失いたくないでしょうしね。
優也は新兵じゃない。アメリカ軍のエリートだったんだ。肩書きだけじゃなく、腕もいいのはステラだって知ってるだろ？
ええ、もちろん。
それに高村は、今まで散々94セカンドになれろって優也に強要してきたんだ。確かにあのレールガンの凄さは認めるけど、今更砲撃戦主体なんて矛盾してるって。
確かに、結姫が優也の初陣に気使ったってのは理解できるが、まあ、次の上陸規模と夫人なら、近接戦やらせてもいいんじゃねえかとは思うぜ。
It's funny because like they're right and they're talking about like as long as it's in a relatively controlled environment, it's fine. But you got to remember too, like beta are interesting. Beta are like zombies, where in small numbers, in what you would perceive as controlled environments, you'd feel like you'd easily have the upper hand. But like a situation can go from controlled to out of control really quickly and unexpectedly. Because you even got to remember, like, we often make chump change of the grabbers, you know, the red ones, because they have no real armor. They're fairly small compared to TSFs and munitions, and they drop like flies to a single shot from a TSF weapon. But their scale is nothing to be shied at. Remember, they're like as big as tanks and can rip them apart with their hands. If they get onto a TSF, they can rip the panels off and rip it to pieces. Like even the weakest of beta are really something to be worried about, cautioned with. And then the soldiers are tiny, obviously, but they're really stealthy to the point where they're almost undetectable. They make almost no noise when they move. They're really difficult to like pick up on any sensors, sonars, or tremor transmissions. And they're really good at getting in places where they can do ambushes. So even if you're on the battlefield and you have to do an emergency ejection or something, like even when the battlefield looks clear, as we've seen before, that doesn't mean you're safe. Actually, kind of off topic, but it's funny because there's I've been following somebody on Twitter who has recently started Muv-Luv and just been going through like the core. Like they did extra, they did unlimited, now they're in alternative, and they got through that halfway point. They got through the chomp scene, and it made me go back and watch my video of that moment, and to this day, it still gives me chills. And that's the thing is like, a lot of these side stories don't talk about the smaller beta stuff. It's usually focused on big political movements and big military actions, which are fine, like it makes sense, but I still feel like the horror of the beta and just how like tenacious they are. It reminds me a lot of Tyranid from the Warhammer 40k too. Like another good example of like, you can focus on the big, strong bug monsters, but like if you really look at it, what makes them horrifying is just how persistent and like unavoidable they are, and how even the smallest forms are super deadly.
反射神経、状況判断、操縦技術。優也はどこをとっても一級だ。実戦時の肝の座り方も堂々としたもんだ。
Yeah, but
ダメっつう理由はないと思うけどね。
There's a lot more than just like, oh, is he ready for it?
だろ？たく同じ兵士のくせに何考えてんだよ、高村のやつ。
ま、結姫は頑固だし、かっちりしてるしな。普通に考えりゃ、最初に決めた順番守ってんだろうけどよ。
私は優也の上に行きたい気持ち、すごくよくわかるよ。 早く本物の格闘戦を経験させてやるべきなのに。
ま、あれだな。俺が見たところ、この話には裏があるな。
Oh yeah.
裏？なんだよ、裏って。
この矛盾とも言える一連の状況を説明できる裏事情なんて。
なんだよ。まさか、やっぱりハイネマンのやつが？
No, actually, I'm sure he's pretty gung-ho for things. It's everyone else.
ユイ姫。ありゃ絶対ユウヤに気があるね。
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he's probably right, but still.
お前、それ
バカだ、バカ。
でも、結構いい線いってると思うわ。
Uh-huh.
ああ、同感だな。
いい線って、何が？
Oh, Teresa, the denial is strong with this one.
両方よ。
高村は否定し、
高村注意。それにどう売る注意も、今回の遠征の裏に何かあると見て動いているのは確かね。
ああ、ヴィンセントのやつもうすうすそう感じてるみたいだな。ユイ姫との言動が一致している理由はその辺だろうよ。
I mean, can you blame them though? Like I said, like the fact that the gun actually fired, that it was so successful on such a prominent stage, like how are they not realizing just how many interesting parties are going to be involved now? And how like even at this point, any deployment of the gun is going to be much more of a security risk than it ever was before. And that's not counting beta. That's assuming beta are never going to be a problem for this gun. Like any deployment of it being here on the battlefield, heck, even if they chose not to deploy it for whatever reason, and they just left it back here, it would be in such a vulnerable position because everyone's going to be distracted. A lot of people are going to be gone, and a lot of people's attention, especially in the higher ups, are going to be focused on the battle and the test that's happening there, not on the hangar, even though it's got like a super classified and important weapon in it.
じゃあ両方いい線っていうのは？
そう。高村注意の一見矛盾した言動の理由。その中心にいるのが、おそらくハイネマンね。ソ連側と馬が合いすぎているもの。
That is interesting because Heinemann is essentially, if I understand correctly, he's part of the business, the Boening company, which makes him a civilian contractor. And a civilian contractor could be a lot more susceptible to political intrigue interference because he doesn't have to be as accountable. Now, granted, he's got high security clearance, so he should be held accountable and he should have to report any potential conflicts of interest. But because he is at heart a civilian and not in the military, even then, there's the amount of oversight and like punishment and investigation that can be done by the UN is fairly limited. So that could be a cause of concern if he is being real chummy with the opposition forces. You know, yeah, that's an I hadn't thought about that.
それを指摘するなんざ、結構鋭いじゃねえか。見直したぜ、タリサ。
あいつは絶対怪しいね。私は前々からずっとそう思ってたんだ。
でもスパイとかそんな単純な話じゃなさそうなのよね、あの人の場合。
ああ、何かっつうと、サンダークやソ連の奴らとつるんでるだろ。イブラヒムの旦那も気の毒だよな。ここんとこ、あの二人に振り回されっぱなしって感じだし。
I wonder why. What would be his motivation for working with the Soviets?
でもさすがよ。相手の土俵に乗りながら、のらりくらりとうまくやってるわ。
ああ、今んところはな。けどよ、ちょっと気になるんだよな。
気になるって何が？
ああ、さっきの戦力補充云々で思い出したんだが、ペトロパブロフスクで知り合ったソ連軍の文官やってる子がさ、何の気なしに言ってたことなんだけどよ。
Yeah, it's always bad when like military leaders say one thing, but the actual grunts on the fore that would be making said things happen contradict it.
ペトロパブロフスク？ああ、確かニュースソースがどうとか言ってたあれね。で、それがどうしたの？
その子がさ、俺らのことを 国連が送り込んだ補充部隊だと思ったらしいんだよ。
Uh-huh.
補充部隊？私たちが？何言ってんの？
Oh. She thought he was... So he's from the UN. That's pretty clear. And she thought he was from replenishment forces. That could be one of two things. Number one, the less likely one, that the UN has actually sent replenishment units that the other UN members just aren't as aware of or they haven't been talking about. More likely, she's seeing replenishment units, but they're not normally part of this local area. So there are other Soviet soldiers that don't look anything or have any namesake or ties to anybody here, meaning that the Soviet presence has been upped, but the members of such Soviet or such workers in general, like the workers are up, but they're not from this local base. So whether to disguise the Soviets or if they might be operators from other interested parties that are trying to blend in, that's a concern.
なんか、1ヶ月ぐらい前にもすげえ規模の上陸があって、機甲部隊がしこたまやられたんだってよ。で、その時の損耗を回復できてなかったもんだから、タイミングよく来た俺らを補充だって勘違いしたらしいんだが。
Oh.
この前戦車が全然足りてなかったのって、そのことなんじゃねえかって思ってな。
どういうこと？そんな情報、ブリーフィングで一度も聞いてないわ。
だよな。補充が間に合わねえなんてのはザラにある話ではあるが。
Oh, interesting. So they had the massive beta invasion that depleted their resources heavily. And then, instead of rushing new supplies over to reinforce and kind of get things back to normal, they orchestrate a little practice run with all these other forces, knowing that their front was in a weakened state and knowing that it could lead to potential shenanigans, right? But now, the supplies are suddenly here. Like they could have been here a while ago. They just weren't. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of funky stuff going on.
気に入らないね。なんで知らせないんだよ。そんな大事な情報。
事実の隠蔽は、ここじゃよくある話だけど。
まあな。けどよ、なんか引っかからねえか？
Yeah, it's not just like inconvenient information in this case. It's also like if they were willing to throw their own people to death just to try and inconvenience outsiders. That's taking things so far. It seems super illogical.
念のため調べてみましょう。自分たちの身を守る意味でね。
ああ、積極的自己防衛ってやつな。
ふん。めんどくさいことにならなきゃいいけどね。
Yeah. Yeah, you said it. Ace Commander's office.
やれやれ。とてつもない代物を持ち込んでくれたものだ。
西側風に言うなら、マルゾン覚悟で始めた先行投資に予期せぬ高配当があったというところでしょう。実に喜ばしい。
しかし、どうあっても手に入れろとは。難題を押し付けられたものだ。
Yeah, like I said, the Soviets weren't, like, it makes a lot of sense. I think I said that, like, way back with the actual maneuver. Like, they didn't want to disrupt the test so much as provide an opportunity for them to potentially recover the device from the battlefield and then claim that it had been blown up and destroyed so they could have access to it and none be the wiser.
だからこそ見返りも大きいのですよ、閣下。そして、作戦は順調に進行中です。
結構。だが、この作戦が成功すれば、これまでの対日工作は全てパーになるだろうな。
Well, like the argument could be made, like, yeah, you can make friendly relations, but what goes further than friendly relations is holding a gun to someone's head.
帝国海軍とは、間引き作戦を共同で行えるまで、関係は改善されていたのだがね。
計画書は問題なく通っております。これはすなわち、今は先行投資より高配当を得るべき時だという中央の意向です。
Interesting.
それは分かっている。だが、そこまでして手に入れる価値があるというのか。我々が失うものに見合うとは到底思えん。 あれは G 弾と同じ類の兵器ではないのかね。であれば入手したところで、我々には扱えん可能性が高い。
He's right about that, but remember, like the key is capturing a hive. If they have in the background the opportunity, operations, and a deal in order to capture the hive, then they could have access to G elements. And if they can, then they'd have the means.
ご自分の見解を述べられるのは結構ですが、命令に異を唱えるのであれば、それ相応の覚悟をお持ちになっていただかなければ。
That's a UN uniform. So Lieutenant Colonel Rogovsky, he's in the UN forces, but it looks like his true allegiances are more in line with the motherland. So that puts some interesting spin on this.
我々は中央の命令をただ遂行するのみです。独自の判断は禁物ではないですかな。同志基地司令閣下。
当然、中央の命令は粛々と遂行する。だが、彼らも無能ではない。特に日本人士官とその周辺は、しつけがよく行き届いているらしいが。
ご安心を。すでに下準備は整っております。
Really? That's interesting.
よくもあの厳重な警戒の中を。
あれほどの友好ムードとバカ騒ぎです。一瞬も気を緩めずにいられるものなどおりません。
であればあとは実行するのみだが、果たして、こちらの筋書き通りことが運ぶかな。
この地は彼らの故国ではありません。いかようにもできます。
Well, there's a stretch of logic.
だろうな。人間が相手であれば。確かにな。
約1ヶ月前に発生した大規模侵攻の調査分析は完璧です。我々は全てを掌握していると言っても過言ではありません。
Remember how I said in those pictures how it looked like this was a much larger scale beta invasion but they said it was a battalion? Yeah, I think it is a much larger one. I think this is going to be the repeat of the really big one, the incursion that happened that like depleted their resources a month ago. It's going to be a repeat of that. They know that and they're specifically like downplaying it because they want to catch people off guard. Again, it's the same it's odd though because it's like they want to try and make the same thing happen. Maybe they're kind of banking on the gun not being as effective this time. Like maybe it'll jam or something.
そうであることを期待するよ。同志ロゴフスキー。
Oh boy. August 17th, 15th day in Kamachika. Supply base.
中佐、どうぞコーヒーです。
ありがとう。どうした？何か用か？
その書類、もしかしてあの実験機のですか？
なぜそう思う？
記載されているグラフの形状や数値から、大体所属機のデータではないと判断しました。
なるほど。さすがだな。ああ、そうだ。
中佐、一つ、お聞きしたいことがあります。
なんだ？言ってみろ。
この前、中佐はあの男と二人で何か話をされていましたね。
なんだ？見てたのか？
いえ、部下たちから聞きました。何をお話になっていたのかと、多少、騒ぎになっていたので。
It makes sense that conversation wouldn't be kept private.
大した話じゃない。連中のおかげでありつけた上物のボトカの礼をな。
冗談はやめてください。中佐が礼を言うためだけにわざわざ誰かを探し回るなんて、あなたの部下である私たちが信じると思いますか？
いや、思わないだろうな。
中佐はなぜあの男をそこまで気にするんですか？あいつに何があるって言うんです。
Interesting leap in logic that like she went out to talk to him, like you must care about him. It's like, first of all, maybe she doesn't talk to you guys a whole lot, but that's because you're all part of her chain of command. He wasn't. Again, she wasn't nice to him.
やれやれ。やけに断定的な物言いだな。なぜそう確信した？
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. They're jumping to some weird conclusions.
その書類、中佐はさっきからバイタルチャートばかり見ています。
なるほど。
Okay.
興味があるのは認める。で、どうした？それが気に入らないのか？
It very clearly does.
はい。気に入りません。あの兵士に中佐が興味を持つほどの価値があるなんて、思えませんから。
There's a green monster jealousy here. Holy cow.
なんでそこまでして中佐はあの腰抜けを構うんですか？部下たちもみんな、不安がっています。
おいで、ターシャ。
中佐。
Aww.
お願いですから。あんなやつ構わないで。
I don't, like, again, like, it's motherly. I don't know if it's quite both sides motherly, but, like, it's kind of the feel we're going for here, I think.
大丈夫だ。ターシャ。私はお前たちのものだ。
本当ですか、中佐。
Dang, though. It's kind of disturbing. It makes sense, though, because remember, these are, like, kids. But isn't it kind of disturbing how one observed conversation with one individual whom she's taken a bit of an interest in as far as, like, learning more about him, keeping an eye on, like, what's going on with the testing of the weapon that he was using and all that stuff. Like, I think anybody would be really interested to learn more about this random American who just showed up and blasted an entire battalion away like it was nothing. Regardless of the method or of the madness, like, it makes sense. But this takes her, like, personal assistant, one of the main, like, test pilots that works around and on the base, and shakes her to her core that she just had a conversation with him. Like, I can understand the jealousy. I can understand feeling like you're about to be abandoned by the one person whom you think was never going to abandon you. But that's quite a leap to make with the evidence that they were presented with. Again, though, it kind of highlights that these are kids we're talking about. Like, we're talking like 14-year-old, 15-year-olds. Like, all of us were incompetent, hormonal wrecks of life when we were that old.
Ah.
17th day. The story's been canceled.
まだ質問は許可していないぞ、ブリッジス。後にしろ。
Yes, sir. Motherfetcher. What the heck's going on? The beta will be at landfall in a couple hours. Why do we have to sit in here and listen to this crap? Don't want to move up the close quarters combat trials? Fine, whatever. You miss the shots you don't take and all that crap. But they won't stop me from busting butt and making the Shira New second the best machine it can be. Can't do that if my hands are tied, though. It's not ideal, but there's still a world of difference between a live fire test on a real battlefield versus sitting pretty in a dilapidated piece of crap base. The worst part of all of Argus test flights been grounded. Are you seriously telling me the big shots think it's a good idea for us to sit back and watch the show? Heck, even assuming we don't deploy the Type 99 railgun, and it might be a blessing in disguise, we're still losing a chance to run the other kind's tests.
厳密に言えば中止ではない。順延という方が的確だろう。
Okay.
事の詳細は高村中尉に譲る。
I think it could be two things. I think Lieutenant Takamura is worried because the railgun isn't going to be operable, and she's just like, nope, we're not risking our test flights without the guarantee safety that the gun can provide. I think on the other hand, I think they also might be suspicious of like the setup that's been going on, and perhaps they want to keep everyone on guard to protect the railgun before they can now they need to leave, and they need to figure out a way to do it in a way that's not super, politically destructive. But ooh.
状況は救急型電磁投射砲の不調。原因は不明。したがって今回の試験出撃は見合わせることとなった。本日未明の出撃準備体制発令を受けて救急型砲の最終点検を行ったところ、メインコンピューターを含む制御系が全てダウン。その後一切の入力を受け付けず、再起動もままならない状態だ。
So yeah, what this seems like too is sabotage. So it's the sabotage, and that they pressure them to going out to the battlefield. Maybe, fetch. Oh, that would be devious. Okay, so they sneak in or have an inside man, because they have a guy that's working for the UN who's obviously on the side of the Russians. So they have an inside individual somehow get in there through bribery or whatever, disabling the gun. You know, not in a way that overtly destroys it, but a way that simply makes it undeployable. Then they have Argus flights sitting on their hands here in the base, all angsty. Then the beta invasion comes, but it's much bigger than they expect, and everyone's just getting wiped out. Like, literally, the base is going to be overrun with beta. And so they Argus flight then makes the argument saying, like, look, if we sit here, we die. We go out there, we might die, but we might be able to even salvage the situation. So in the heat of the moment, throwing caution to the winds, Argus flight gets sent out. But during that entire scramble and process, they probably don't take the railgun knowing it's not functional, leaving it behind and leaving it as vulnerable as it's ever going to be, because whilst even all the forces and fighters are going, everyone else might be prepping for evacuation, which is going to keep people on their toes and distracted. And then I wonder if the idea would be to actually let the base fall, let the beta to advance to the point, and then they could escape with the railgun and chalk it up as a loss. Kind of similar to what I thought was going to happen on the battlefield last time.
外部診断プログラムによれば、各所に目立ったトラブルはない。この点滅部分はあくまで技師長の所見であり、確認のため第18ハンガーに戻し、分解整備を開始した。
Yeah. So what? I don't give an F about the inside of the baseball crap. How am I supposed to keep quiet and wait for the QA part of the lectures as such gosh darn snooze fest?
原因不明とはどうもわからんね。専任の技術者をあれだけ大勢連れてきているっていうのに変な話じゃないか。
ハイネマンさんご自重ください。高村中尉はまだ説明を終えていません。
すまないね、中尉。でも私は軍人じゃない。君の命令に従う義務はないさ。
Cocky son of a gun. Like, I'm not a soldier. I don't have to listen to you.
ですが。
ドーウル中尉。私の立場を少しでも思い出してもらえると嬉しいんだがね。
He's a civilian pulling rank. That shouldn't work.
ご質問にお答えします、ハイネマンさん。
そうしてもらえると助かるよ、高村中尉。時間がもったいないからね。
He's just like,
この遠征には帝国議会の意向により、99型砲の機密中枢に関する知識を持つ技師は派遣されておりません。したがって現在、本国にデータを暗号送信する準備を進めており。
つまり、機能回復の見込みは立てられないと？
はい。残念ながらそう言わざるを得ません。
そこについては理解したよ。では次になぜ別の試験項目を繰り上げないのか、その理由を教えてもらえんかね。
And if they're right that Heinemann is working with the Soviets, he definitely would be wanting to do that, like deploy Argus, make all the attention focus on the battlefield, and leave the gun unguarded. Look at that. The old fart also thinks that's weird. Guess anyone would be upset to see the precious TSF gathering dust in the hangar.
当然ながら、繰り上げの検討は、ドーウル中尉と共にいたしました。ですが、不具合の発見がつい先ほどであったため、機体の再調整が出撃に間に合わない可能性が非常に高く、今回の試験出撃を断念した次第です。
That is honestly the prudent answer. I think I would be on the same side. Might be frustrating, yes, but I think it's the right call. That's it? Man, talk about rotten luck.
なるほどね。機体の再調整作業にはもうかかっているのかね？
はい。状況を鑑み、先ほどからローウェル軍曹指揮のもと、99型砲装備仕様から基本仕様に復帰中です。
確認だが、アクティブイーグルとストライクイーグルは基本仕様のままだね。
Oh, you actually gonna even try and mobilize him in an active eel?
はい。
結構だ。では、アクティブイーグルの近接格闘試験だけでもやっていただきたいね。
Say what? With just the active eagles? That kind of defeats the whole point of what this is supposed to be for. So what are you testing? The pilots?
これは我が社の意向と解釈していただいて構わんよ。今回の遠征の目的は確か94セカンドとアクティブイーグルの実戦での即応性と緊密な連携時の問題点を洗い出すというものだったね。
This stinks.
94セカンドが動かない以上、残る機体で試験を行う。そのことに何ら問題はないと思うが、どうだろうか。
はい。
Son of a bee. At this rate, I'm going to be grounded all by myself. But yeah, what Heineman's saying makes an awful lot of sense, but...
どうかねドール注意。
Oh, he's not going to like that.
はい。おっしゃるように確かに問題はありま...
Wait a second. That doesn't make things any better for me. You gotta come up with something else, old timer. The Shiranui second needs the extra attention, not the friggin' active eel. It's not just about you, dude. Come on.
おい、やめろって言うや。ブリッジス。貴様同じことを何度言わせれば気が済むんだ。
Oh, fetch. What's my next move? Do I throw a tantrum and see if I can get the whole thing called off? Or should I try to talk VG and Teresa into handing me their boarding permits?
座れ、ブリッジス。聞こえないのか
Yeah.
座るんだ。
Don't, dude. Not again. Why don't I think things through before I open my mouth? We leave for Alaska in 8 days. This might be the last shot. Vincent finds it distasteful, and he's right, but I can't just let go of the chance before I exhaust my options.
よろしいですかどうでしょうこれは私の意見なのですが。94セカンドはストライクイーグルとともにチェイサーとして出撃してはいかがでしょう
Okay. Huh?
今回のような適正規模の上陸は滅多にあるものではありません。実戦経験を重ねるにしても、随伴任務を安全に遂行するにしても最適だと思われますが。
Okay. Right, as a chaser machine. Holy crap, we could do that!
なるほど、それは妙案だ。記録の精度から言えば、実験機と随伴機は同数が望ましい。それに何よりブリッジス少尉の留飲も多少は下がるだろう。
I think they're playing bridges like a fiddle. They're just kind of making him dance to their tune. Darn right it would. Anything's better than staying behind twiddling my thumbs than the guys who do the actual work.
お待ちください、ハイネマンさん。アクティブイーグルの近接戦試験はともかく、調整中の94セカンドを出撃させるのは問題があります。
ではすぐに作業をやめさせた方がいい。調整を始めたのはついさっきだそうだからね。
そうですね。機体は再調整せずとも突撃砲は使えるはずです。近接格闘装備の運用に問題はあっても、通常軌道や運動性にさほど影響はないのでは。
Ooh, that cuts its arsenal down in half. Because that's the thing. So, like, I guess if I remember correctly, the assault cannons it's talking about the secondary refill guns that are carried in the shoulder plates. But the housing unit that allows for the Type 99 railgun to be mounted and fired are preventing those ports from being activated or used, and you're sending it in with the harness on, essentially, without any of the backups. Then you're talking about a TSF that only has the weapons it carries on hand. Like I said, half the munitions. And TSFs running out of ammunition and needing to be resupplied is a fairly frequent thing on the battlefield. So you're talking about deploying the Shiranui second at a severe handicap with a high risk for the pilot if it gets into any type of unpleasant situations, and with a need to have to refresh and restock far more often than his contemporaries, meaning that in a pinch, he could end up just being essentially dead weight. No, I would be... If I had the option, I would stamp that out immediately. I'd be like, no. We're not deploying in the real combat, controlled or otherwise, without, willingly, handicapping one of our pilots.
確かにご指摘の通りです。ですが。
では、随伴任務であれば十分事足りるでしょうな。
失礼だが、サンダーク注意。
ドール注意。改まって何でしょう。
機関がブリッジス少尉の随伴をそこまで強く押す理由を聞かせていただきたい。
I'm guessing it's because they picked up on Yui's kind of attachment to Yuuya. I don't know if it's quite a crush or anything yet, but it's definitely the budding beginnings of one. She's obviously a bit fixated on him. If they're using that to their advantage, they're simply trying to make sure she's well distracted while they try and extract the Type 99.
これは。何かお気に召さないことでも？
いいえ。単純な職務上の興味です。ソ連軍の士官である機関が なぜそれほどまでに彼にこだわるのかが気になったので。
Also, if you want to discredit this, like this whole test to begin with, it would be pretty solid, like anti-UN task force Project Prominence if the hero that destroyed all the beta using the railgun went into combat without the railgun and died. It would definitely put a whole make it look like the Project Prominence is a one-trick pony, and that trick isn't even Project Prominence's trick. It's just Japan's.
何ブリッジ少尉とは何かと縁がありますので。
Sure you do.
縁？
はい。例の遭難騒ぎの際はもちろん、私どものテストパイロットたちが普段からお世話になっているようですし。
Oh, now that's also interesting too. The way he's phrasing that actually could be interpreted that he has sympathy for Soviet Russia and might even be compromised in a way. That can start alienating Yuuya to the upper brass, who might feel that he is getting too buddy-buddy with the Russians if they're paranoid about the Russians trying to outmaneuver them. Oh, that's an interesting way, because even if things go in a much better direction, they come out of this without too much like crazy stuff happening, that can easily disrupt a lot of the testing by casting shadow on Yuuya as an individual.
それに、個人的には、同じ英士として、少尉の無念は察してあまりあるのですよ。
それが、理由？
不十分です。
ですが、理由や動機としては、理解しがたいというのが、偽らざる本音です。
では、差し出がましいと重々承知の上で正直に申し上げますが。
どうぞ。
私にしてみれば、機関らの考えこそが理解しがたいのです。彼のような優秀なテストパイロットが最前線まで来ながら、ろくな経験も積めずにアラスカに帰る。となれば、XFJ 計画だけではなくプロミネンス計画の戦術機の発展という意味においては人類全体の損失と言えるでしょう。
That's an argument that's gonna hit Yuuya really hard.
なぜ機関らがそこまでして彼を実戦から遠ざけようとするのか。工学のためぜひご教授願いたいものです。
Ooh, game calling game! Oh, motherfetcher, did I hear that right? Are they actively trying to keep me away from the field? Here's the thing, he doesn't understand. It's a subconscious thing. Can't sort it because Lieutenant Takamura and Lieutenant Dagulu want to keep me in check? No. For some reason, they don't want me to experience a real battle for myself? That was the plan all along, and a lot of pieces start to fall into place. The sudden decision to run a live fire test with the Type 99 railgun, the idea of equipping it onto the Type 94 second. I didn't realize they were focused on making excuses for why I couldn't sortie until Heinemann and Lieutenant Sandak, of all people, pointed out that I could only join as a chaser. But why are they doing this? Could be related to Captain Sven's accident? No fat chance. That was on my file, spelled out clear as day. I would have been sweeping toilets from day one instead of flying a state-of-the-art TSF. Wait a second. Maybe I'm under suspicion because of that time I snuck into the top secret facility with Inya? That can't be right either. No one treated me any different after that posted bail. But what if they've been playing the fool because I've been under suspicion of collaborating with Soviet intelligence? Dang it. I told the UN Force investigators absolutely everything everything that went down, and saying like a effing canary. Sure, I did sign an affidavit, and I'm legally obligated to keep quiet about everything I saw during my stay with the Soviet MPs. But I don't have to comply once I cross to the other side of the border. I'm an American, for crying out loud. Better dead than red. But that's the thing. Look at appearances, man. What have you been doing? You've been seen again, time and again, interacting with them. You've actually gone out of your way to find them. You've even been wandering around the base in a way almost as if you've been trying to meet up with them or with other Soviets. You've also been seen talking with other Soviet members in heated private discussions. Oh, no. Oh, dear. Oh, crap. If I'm under suspicion, I sure as heck didn't take Lieutenant Sendak's comment about us sharing connection the right way. I mean, I've been getting along well with the Scarlet Twins since that incident, and those two are reclusive as they come. Son of a b! I didn't even give him much thought because Yukon's a UN base. Multiculturalism is the name of the game, but for someone who doesn't know any better, my actions look suspicious as F. Making things worse, the Soviet Union has been given the XFJ program favorable treatment, and now even Lieutenant Sendek went to bat for me. Yeah. That's actually a good point. Like, what are they gaining from that? Because they clearly are gaining something. Looking at the situation from the sidelines, it sure appears that the Soviets may be an offer I couldn't refuse in exchange for a get-out-of-the-gulag card. No. A real spy would try his hardest to avoid raising any warning signs about his loyalties, and palling around with the Scarlet Twins is as conspicuous as it gets. Lieutenant Takamura and the commander know that. Yet they might know that, but who else does? They weren't born yesterday. Of course they could sense ulterior motive behind Lieutenant Sendek's facade of concern. Yeah, I see what's behind Lieutenant Sendek's compromise proposal. He's making a show of watching my back, but it's not about me at all. The scheming mother effer wants me out there for some other reason. At least he's kind of picking it up. Is that why they're so intent on keeping me off the field? It's like they're trying to keep you off the field. There's a level of care in there, but they're also trying to keep you off the field because they're trying to figure out why he wants you on the field. So it's like the more he pushes for you to go out, the more they don't want you out because they're trying to figure out why. My stomach's tied in knots. This shouldn't be getting under my skin. What the heck's wrong with me? I've been on the receiving end of discrimination and prejudice for years. My classmates framing me, strangers looking at me with my eyes full of suspicion, the scenes of my everyday life back when I was a kid. This is nothing compared to what I've had to endure, so why is it killing me inside? My throat's parched from the creeping sense of anxiety.
僭越ながら。開発責任を預かる私がお答えします。繰り返しになりますが、現在知らぬ2型の状態は不完全。まして、そのメインテストパイロットは近接戦の実戦経験が皆無です。帰国、及びソ連軍のご後輩には感謝いたしますが、かかる状況において、貴重な実験機を前線に投入することは、帝国の国益を損ないかねません。
I actually think that's a mistake there. She's speaking for as an envoy of the Empire, not as a member of the UN testing project.
まして、期待以上に重要な英士を、そのようなリスクの高い試験任務に送り出すことはできません。周囲にご指摘いただくまでもなく、ブリッジ少尉は非常に優秀であり。
That's a fair response.
私にとって、かけがえのない存在なのです。
Oh, okay. Fetch me.
なるほど。要するに、高村中尉は個人的な動機からブリッジ少尉を危険な目に遭わせたくないと考えている。
This episode's going so long, but I don't care.
というわけですか。
Get called out. Oh no.
そう解釈していただいて結構です。仮に今回の任務が安全だとしても、同じ英士として不完全な機体で出撃し、不本意な経験を積ませることは個人的に忍びないのです。
Yes.
理由として不十分でしょうか。
That would be my counter argument right there. Like, why deploy him knowingly? It'd be like, it's like knowingly sending someone in an aircraft that's failed safety checks. It's like sending somebody onto a boat without enough, onto a boat without enough lifeboats, you know? Sure, if things go perfectly smooth, no problem, right? But what if things go wrong? It becomes catastrophic.
公的であれ個人的であれ、同じく実験招待を率いる機関であれば、今回の出撃を回避する意義、十分ご理解いただけると考えます。
Fetch. There was never any reason to lose my composure.
だから、今私が失いたくないもの。それは、知らぬ2型と、そのメインテストパイロットである。
Lieutenant Takamura is only trying to look out for the XFJ programs and the Shiranui Second's best interests. She wouldn't have let me fire the railgun if she entertained even the slightest suspicion about where my loyalties lie. Instead, I would have been kept under surveillance. Even assuming I was, it's pretty darn obvious my actions alone would have seen me long since cleared my name. Son of a b, Lieutenant Sendek is trying to sow discord inside of Argus. That was his goal all along.
全然理解できねえな。
What?
黙れ学んだる。貴様は
構いません、ドール注意。続けさせてください。
しかし、
彼女は実戦を控えた英士です。リスクコントロールの点から言っても、任務への不満は抑えつけず、取り除くべきです。
Teresa, no, you're going to undo what we've just done, which was a really good case study for not sending him onto the battlefield, cripple. Oh no. And Dogulu's like, oh crap, he's feeling it too.
何が同じ英士としてだよ。冗談じゃないよ。公的だか個人的だか知らねえけど、ユウヤが大事だってんならガタガタ言ってないでこいつの望みを叶えてやりゃいいじゃないか。責任論、組織論、うんぬんなんて関係ないね。それをどうにかしてやるのがあんたなんじゃねえのかよ。あんたも最前線を知ってるなら分かってるはずだろ。英士は実戦でのみ成長するんだってな。ユウヤを信じてねえのかよ。
Oh boy.
言いたいことはそれだけか、少尉。何？私がブリッジ少尉を信じるかどうかなど、些細な問題でしかない。英士である以前に、責任者として、XFJ 計画に最良の選択をするのが、私の役目だ。
Alright, yeah.
なんだよ、また建前かよ。いい加減本音で来いよ。本当はあんただって、ユウヤに実戦経験させてやりたいんだろ。だけどそれを。
Go on. You need to speak up, be like Teresa. That's enough.
タリサ！
私の個人感情は先ほど述べた。それ以上でも以下でもない。叫んな！あんたにユウヤがかけがえのない存在だなんていう資格はない。
Wish you would just speak up and tell her to stop.
それで結構だ。満足したか？
いやいや、注意の考えはもっともです。そうでしょうとも。テストパイロットの思惑では、開発計画は動きませんよね。そんなことはあっちゃいけません。そりゃあそうです。お話は深く理解しました。ですが重ねて94セカンドの出撃を要請します。我が社は XFJ 計画における日本帝国の重要なパートナーであると自負していますが、いかがでしょうね。
God, it's all the machinations. It sucks. It's like everyone in this room is against us.
その通りです。
また、両者の関係は対等であるとも認識していますが、注意。
その通りです。
では、弊社の利となる試験には、ぜひともご協力いただきたいものですな。イコールパートナーの思惑として、ねえ。
Oh man.
弊社の利は、おのずと XFJ 計画の利となります。よろしいですね。注意。
That was a threat, all right. The old man saying Boening is going to pull out of the XFJ program if he doesn't get his way, and he's fully aware we need their technical know-how. His whole speech wasn't intended to single out the whims of test pilots. It was intended to clarify his position. Hyman's the boss. If he says jump, we ask how high. No one built a new TSF just for craps and giggles. I shouldn't have gone after Lieutenant Takamura. No, Gramps here should have been my target instead. I misjudged this guy. He's not a man who cares about the process. As long as he has a fancy new machine to show at the latest shareholders meeting, he couldn't care less how we reached that point. From a logical point of view, Lieutenant Takamura's argument is on the losing side. She can't say no to a perfectly reasonable request by Boening, and since Lieutenant Takamura is a lesser partner, she has no choice but to comply with his order, because that's how the military works.
かしこまりました。知らぬ新潟は、随半期として出撃させます。
Fetch.
ただし、知らぬ新潟には、私が登場します。
Oh, that's an interesting twist. What? I think she'd go this far.
ふざけんな！あんたの出る幕じゃないよ、お姫様。ユウヤは2番機に乗んな。私が94セカンドで出る。
What? Oh, okay.
ユウヤは私が守る。だったら文句ないだろ。
Damn.
たく、しゃあねえな。
I mean, that's kind of a better compromise, especially because her whole positioning has been like, Yuuya is too valuable to the program. But isn't Teresa also important to the program?
ああ、こいつだけじゃなんですから、俺がバックアップやりますんで。
BG! なんてなんだよ、なんて
Guys. Gosh darn it. Gotta be any more self-centered? I was so insecure about my lack of actual combat experience, I never stopped to think about the rest of the team. Lieutenant Takamura and Teresa are coming from the same place. Both of them want to protect me in their own way. It doesn't matter if they have to stand up to Boening, to Heinemann, to one of those calling all the cards. Can't believe it. I can't believe these guys are willing to go out on a limb for me. Aww, he has true friends. But I still think they're gonna end up inadvertently screwing themselves.
あなたの戦友たちはああ言ってるけど、どうする？
My comrades in arms. Yeah, no crap, they're my comrades in arms. Took me long enough to get it.
その未成熟な精神が対局を見る目を曇らせている。
Oh yeah, he still doesn't see it, lady. He does not see the big picture yet.
その手合いは結局戦えない。いや、自分自身の戦いはできない。貴様は何のために戦っているんだ？
What are you fighting for? I mentioned this in a comment someone was mentioning, but I think she was kind of cutting him pretty to the quick here. But I think the fact that she was asking the classic question, like the one that's like run like a line through all of the beta universe of Muv-Luv. What are you fighting for? Like, why do you fight? It's a core like backbone. And it's a concept, a philosophy that's like imperative to all soldiers, especially in this universe, but I would argue all soldiers in general. What are you fighting for? And I think the fact that she asked him this was actually a sign of mutual, like, budding respect. She still feels that he's lacking in a lot. And I think that she still sees him very much like a child, but in a way, she sees him like a child with potential and has started to see him as an endearing member, a potential other member of her little flock that she has, right? So her asking him this question, I think, was actually a sign, an indication of her actual genuine budding respect, like I said. Like, before she was really dismissive of him, but the fact that she asked him this question, she was trying to gauge what kind of soldier he was and whether or not he actually understood what was at stake. You were right all along, Lieutenant Colonel Trova. I was blind to it all, even to things I hold dear.
ああ、君たち、私の話を聞いていたかね。さっきも言っただろう。英氏の思惑で計画は動かないとね。
ああ、そうかい。だったら首にでも何でもすりゃいいさ。で、私たちの代わりにあんたが出撃するのかい、ハイネマンさん。それであんたの、
Shut up! Shut up!
誰に向かって口を聞いているつもりだ、マナンダル少尉。ああ
I can't believe it. How could I have been so oblivious? What the heck's wrong with me?
何がおかしい、ブリティッシュ少尉。言いたいことがあるならはっきり言え。
I suck. I'm so done with my own bullcrap.
君の意見をぜひ聞きたい。
Go fetch, man. They're all like, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna do? It's like he's the linchpin. Handling the active eagle wouldn't be all that hard for me, though I can't deny having one of its regular test pilots behind the sticks would yield better results. I'm sure Mr. Heinemann would agree.
そりゃそうですよ、あなた。彼らはアクティブイーグルのエキスパートです。
So, follows it's in Boeing's interest to have the Type 94 second out there as a chaser.
正確には我が社と XFJ 計画にとっての利です。
Clarify, I am threatening you.
この遠征が終われば、94セカンドは強化モジュールに換装されます。比較基準機であるアクティブイーグルの実践データは多ければ多いほど、精密であればあるほどに等しく利がもたらされるのです。
It all comes down to data, does it? As long as the old man gets what he wants, the methods don't matter. Works great for me. In that case, let's leave the Type 94 second in Lieutenant Takamura's capable hands.
Nani?
Hey, that was a pretty mature option.
なるほどね。
Lieutenant Colonel would laugh her butt off at my idea, but that's what the big picture looks like from where I'm standing. So it's best for the Type 94 second, and for me, its pilot. Before coming to Yukon, I didn't give a rat's butt about what others thought of me. It was all noise. At best, my fellow pilots were obstacles for me to overcome. At worst, they were sheep. Why would a wolf care about the feelings of the sheep? But I can't see the XFJ program and the guys in the same light.
てめえ言うや人がせっかく
Fair point. I didn't ask you to do that. Look, Tiny, I'm happy you feel strongly about me, but I either go out to this dogfight or I sit this one out. Chaser duty would bore me out of my mind. No way I can be indifferent to these guys. They're not more obstacles for me to overcome, and deep down, I knew that all along. Why else would I rack my brains about the possibility of them suspecting I'm a Soviet spy? The answer's clear as day. Whatever we share between us would be over if they believe I'm a traitor, and that scares me. Man, I'm beyond help. How could I have been so blind? These guys are my comrades in arms. We share good and bad, fighting shoulder to shoulder. We risk our lives for the sake of the common cause. Taking me a darn long time to figure things out, but I'm better late than never. Oh man, you're my sweet summer child. You've only scratched the surface.
おいおい、ゆうや。
I'd be frustrated beyond belief if I had to sit back and watch you guys engage in close quarters combat without me. I'd much rather hold the fort in this case.
いけない。いけないよ、ブリッジス少尉。感心しないね。メインテストパイロットが軽々しく機体を降りるなどというものじゃないよ、君。
Your response would be like, I'm a soldier. I take orders. If the order is I sit back and Lieutenant Takamura takes my place, then that happens. Whether I like it or not, and whether you like it or not.
アクティブイーグルに彼らが最適なように、94セカンドに最適なのは、機体に精通している君なんだよ。
God, I hate how he's just a pawn for these guys.
君が登場することを含めて、XFJ 計画なんだよ。君は選ばれた英士なんだ。そこはきちんと自覚しなきゃね。
Took you long enough, old man. I was about to pull out the plug on the entire thing. Hyman's goals matched with mine, experience actual combat, but of course, ours are only a temporary alliance. As top executive directly interfering with our work on the shop floor doesn't bode well for the project's future, hence why Lieutenant Takamura and the commander pushed back on his demands. No, it's crystal clear he has ulterior motives of his own. Why else would an American technical consultant be marching in lockstep with the Soviets?
ブリッジス少尉。差し出がましいのは承知で言うが、ハイネマン氏は君に依頼しているのではない。命令しているのだよ。君の自己犠牲的精神には素直に感嘆するが、もう無理はしなくてよい。大手を振って出撃したまえ。
Sorry, Lieutenant. I should have figured out things out earlier. Maybe this wouldn't have turned into such a mess.
ブリッジ少尉、本日貴様はチェイサーとして出撃だ。
Roger that.
総員傾注
We're gonna go ahead and stop here. This has already been a freakishly long episode. Thank you. If you've stuck it out this long, thank you for that. But come on, I couldn't have interrupted all that. That was intense. Ugh. Oh, this sucks. I hate it. It's like so much worse in some ways than an actual just straight up fight because it's all the intrigue. It's like, who do we trust? We don't trust anybody. But if we don't trust anybody, what's the point? It sucks. But we'll get to it when we get to it. Next week will be an exciting episode for sure. Let's see. Do the Soviets get the gun? Do the Germans get the gun? Does Japan repel them? Does the UN somehow like use this as a maneuver to kind of pull into the light the shadowy machinations of the forces around them? Because that seems to be what the UN tends to do. It tends to be really good about like exposing corruption between the different nations just because they've got fingers in all the pies. They kind of have the like way of seeing it all happen. But still, I just don't know. It's kind of terrifying, really. And it's like world politics is the same way. With all the stuff that's going on in Ukraine and Russia, we can talk about like right and wrong of the whole situation, but you know every nation, both on the side of Ukraine or side of Russia, they're just doing things and they're of their own vested interests, political or otherwise. And like it sucks because I wish people could just be altruistic and be fighting for the common good and fighting for decency and peace and like hope and happiness for people. But it's like it's like there's so many other angles going on, and there's so many like layers of machinations and use and abuse that are happening, just using these combat exercises and wars as an excuse. So yeah, a little bit too much real life going on in this. Makes it uncomfortable, doesn't it? But we'll get to that later. Thank you so much, especially to the patrons for supporting me, holding things out. Thank you so much for listening. As long as you have, your support means the world to me. I'm very grateful, and I hope I can continue to make content that brings you back time and time again. So until the next video you watch with me or happen to see me in next, I'll see you there.